Hello and well met. This is Laren with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to build a fighter build character. I'm going to use the older drag and drop method as I wait for the Fantasy Grounds Unity character wizard to be complete. I'm going to revert back to the older drag and drop method. I think this is something that should be updated occasionally because of new features, new add-ons, and so forth. I'm also going to include a little bit of automation towards the end so that you can see some of the full power of the Fantasy Grounds Unity platform. I am using the Rob2e coding effects package. I'm using the backgrounds and class equipment pack, which helps speed up the equipment selection. And then I'm also using the DnD5e Ruleset by the Fantasy Grounds Unity store, which is part of Smiteworks. So without further ado, we'll get going. So I have the latest edition of Fantasy Grounds Unity up. I am a Ultimate license holder. I do have a bunch of modules loaded. So you can see these purple icons here are all the Rob2e coding effects that I might use. Here are the core rules, so I have everything here loaded except for like Tasha's and anything beyond that. So I have everything before Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And then I also have this comprehensive equipment manual. The reason I loaded that one is because I want to have a more selection of weapons and armor. And that is also on the DM's Guild. That was put out by Rob2e and Matakire. And then I have like the monster manual because I want to later showcase this ogre fighting this gladiator character that I'm about to build. So I'm going to build a gladiator type using the DnD5e Ruleset. So as you can see, there's a character wizard here, which is an option that you can use if you want to build using a character wizard. I'm not going to use this for right now. It has some things that need to be adjusted and fixed in it before I proceed with it again. So I'm going to wait probably another month or so and then give it another try. But for now, I'm just going to use the older drag and drop method. So to do that, all you have to do is on the bottom right of the character selection window, which is over here on the far right under player, you're going to click the add item, and that brings up the character sheet straight away. First thing I'm going to do is put Gladiator here, because I don't really have a name. Maybe we'll call him Gladius the Gladiator. I don't know. Let's call it Gladiator. And then I'm going to put the level, because I'm going to make him level 3. That way I know what this character is if I export it. That helps with that. I'm going to assign a portrait straight away because that's one of the things you have to do before you put it on the combat tracker. It helps. So there's a folder here under the portraits area. There's a Fantasy Grounds or FG Fantasy. There's also a Fantasy Grounds Fantasy, and that's the older portraits. These are the more newer ones that came with you. Some pretty good choices here. I mean, you can get your own, and I might show a video to how to do that, but for now, I'm just going to use the built-in portraits, so that way it's easier. It not spending time creating tokens and that sort of thing. So when this is loading up, I just want to thank everyone for supporting the college. We do have a patron, and we also have a lot of good people in our community that volunteer all the time. I'm going to say thanks to all of them. And if you get stuck with Fantasy Grounds and get frustrated, come on over to the college or the academy. That's what we call it now. And we'll give you a hand. We'll help you, try to help you with your issue. A lot of people are having trouble with the character wizard right now, and that's why I'm choosing not to use it, because it does have some bugs, and it still needs some work. So it's still pretty new. It's just kind of a work in progress. So we want to make sure that you report those to the any problems like that. Report them to the Fantasy Grounds forums, the official thread for Fantasy Grounds Unity under the House of Healing. And you'll see a thread that says Character Wizard Bugs. So just post your problems there. If you do it on Reddit or Facebook or in the Discord, it's probably not going to go anywhere. So better off just posting it there. So I'm going to use this guy here that has this kind of gladiator looking helmet. Looks pretty cool. So in the Fantasy Grounds 5th edition rule set, the first thing you want to do is ability score. So if you can remember ABRC, a battle-ready character. So that's ability scores, background, race, and class. The reason we do it that way is when the ability modifiers stack up and when you make some selections here, it will calculate properly. If you do it in a different order, it may not come out quite correctly. So over here are the base 10 scores here that you can use if you want to use these, or you can use the point buy, which is what I'm going to do. So you have 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So I'm going to put 15 in strength straight away. I'm going to put 14 in con, 13 in dex, probably 12 in wisdom, and maybe an 8 in charisma. This guy's all banged up and he's not really much of a talker. So that is his stats. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. Those are the standard array for the DnD5e rule set. So now it's for backgrounds. If I go over to the far right under the campaign, you're going to be able to look down below where it says character. And when you open that up, you'll see the backgrounds is the first thing on the list here. And if you go down this list, you'll notice there's several varieties. I'm going to pick the gladiator because that's the kind of build I'm going for. So if I drag and drop that over, it's going to add all that to the character sheet, along with any adjustments or those sort of things. So if you go to the abilities tab, it's already starting to add in. So you get a disguise kit and one musical instrument, and by popular demand is your ability to perform and to gather a crowd, and you get free lodging and such for your popularity type thing. So that's the second step. Third step is race. So I'm going to do a human variant. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the races banner on the right, open that up. I'm going to scroll down till I find the human variant, which I've found it here. Drag and drop it. And you're going to be able to pick 2 ability scores by 1. So I'm definitely going to do strength. And I am considering dexterity, but I want him to have a pretty beefy con. So I'm going to go ahead and give him that extra in the actual constitution. So that's going to help increase his survivability. And then he gets 1 skill that should probably be related to his actual race. So maybe where he comes from is the people that he's raised with. Maybe they're survival types or something. So I'm going to go ahead and pick survival. But before I do that, I want to go to my skills and take a look here. So I have acrobatics and performance. That comes from my gladiator background. So survival is not going to overlap. So if you use the character wizard, you're less likely to have overlap. But if you're going to do the drag and drop method, you have to pay attention to this. So I'm going to pick survival. I don't have that yet. So that comes from his heritage, basically. And now for the next class and level, I'm going to open that up. Go ahead and take this and take a look at the class and level window, which is this little magnifying glass. Looks like a tennis racket or something like that. And then I'm going to go over to the right and pick on the classes here, this banner. And then I'm going to go down the list and pick fighter. I'm going to pick the one from the player's handbook. Doesn't matter which of the 3, but it's better if you stick with one book in case there's any problems. Then you know where the problem might lie. So I'm going to drag and drop it into this area, and you'll notice I get a pop-up. Now these are the skills that come with the fighter. So definitely going to take athletics as one, and then I don't want to pick one of the other ones I already have. So athletics and maybe intimidation. I think those would be good. I mean, perception would be great, but I don't know. I think that would lend itself better to intimidation, so he doesn't have to fight sometimes. And then survival I already have, so I don't have to worry about that. I already have acrobatics, so go ahead and hit OK. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5 skills off the bat, first level. If you don't have 4 or more, you've probably doubled up somewhere. So check that before you go up in levels, or before you move on, because then you can manually come back and just add it. So the next step is I'm going to take a look at my sheet just kind of real quick. So I'm looking at my proficiencies, the languages. I get 1 extra one of choice. I get a feat at this level because I am a human variant. So I'll bring that up to remind me to choose one. And then you get fighting style and second wind. So I have to choose a fighting style that suits this gladiator. So if I open up that list, there's archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, or protection. So I'm really thinking great weapon fighting. I think maybe this guy uses a big axe or a maul or something like that. So I'm going to notate that on this particular sheet next to fighting style. Now, you don't have to do this, but this helps the game master and you remember what you chose. Now, this doesn't do anything automatic. A lot of people complain, well, how come it doesn't do this automatically? It has to do with the parsing and the logic of the actual platform. So the platform can't pick and choose every little thing, and if it did, all it would be doing is saying, okay, you pick this. It's not going to change anything on the character sheet, so it's really not even worth doing. But in this case, it says when you roll a 1 or 2 on your damage die for an attack that you make with the melee weapon that you were wielding with 2 hands, you can re-roll the die, and you must use the new roll, even if the new roll is 1 or 2. The weapon must have the two-handed or versatile property for you to gain this benefit. So when we get into the weapons, I'll show you how to do that. You can put the re-roll property in the description of the weapon or in the stats of the weapon, and it'll help with that. So I have to figure out if I want a maul or a great axe or something like that. So we'll see what happens. So that's that, but I'll keep this feat to remind me that I need to pick that. So other than that, that's what we have so far. I am going to level this character up to level 3, and I'm probably going to choose a certain archetype that'll lend itself to being a gladiator, so we'll have to see about that. But nonetheless, that's what I'm going to be doing. So let's take a look at the feats. So over here on the right are the feats that come with the DnD5e rule set. Obviously, I have a couple more because I have Xanathar's loaded. But I'm thinking about taking the Grappler feat since he is a gladiator. It'd be nice to be able to do some hand-to-hand combat without a weapon in case. So the Grappler, you get advantage on attack rolls or a creature you're trying to grab a hold of or grapple, and you can use your action to try to pin the creature. And to do so, you just make another grapple check. If you succeed, you and the creature are both restrained until the grapple ends. So that's kind of a cool thing. So the Grappler is something that I might use. Also, you might have a great weapon master, so that might be something that you can take to kind of add to your gladiator aspects. And then there's Shield Master, which gives you some pretty cool shield feats, which might be something I'd want if I was not a 2-weapon master or a 2-handed weapon master. Tavern Brawler looks pretty good. So you can increase your strength or con by 1. You're proficient with improvised weapons. Your unarmed strike uses a D4 for damage. And when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike or improvised weapon, you can do a bonus action to try to grapple them. I think I'm going to take this Tavern Brawler, because that seems to lend itself very well to this particular character. So I'm going to take and go to the Abilities tab, and up here on the top are the feats. So all I have to do is take this Tavern Brawler, this little link on the top left corner, drag and drop it, and it's going to ask me which one I want to get a hold of here, which one I want to increase. So I'm going to go with Con. So I think that's important for the survivability. And then all this other stuff are basically going to be manual processes that I have to set up. So I'm going to leave that out so I remember to mess with it. And also the fighting style. I don't need this Grappler anymore. And if there's any coding effects with this that would lend itself to automation, if you have the Rob 2e coding effects or even Grim Press's products, he's got the same type of thing. The automatic actions or the automatic effects. You can go in and see if these are available. So I'm going to look under spells, and I want to drop down to the 5e effects coding feats, and I'm going to take a look and see what he has here for this. So here's Tavern Brawler. So he does have something for it. So I'm just going to drag and drop it to this sheet here, and it will create its own little group here, and then I'll retitle it so it fits in better. So I'll just grab this feat. There's Tavern Brawler. See, it sets it up as a spell. It is a spell in a sense of Fantasy Grounds, but I don't want that as the category. So what I'm going to do is call this a racial trait, because that's basically where this comes from, is his race trait. And once I do that, I rename it, it'll reset itself up as a different category. So now I just have this bonus action grapples. This is more of a note. It doesn't really do anything as far as automation goes, but it does put a note on the character when you're in the combat tracker. So if I drag my character in the combat tracker and I enable that ability, that just puts a reminder that I have that and I can use a bonus action to grapple. So that's basically what that's for. So that doesn't do a whole lot mechanically, but it does help remind you that you have that feat and your game master. So that's what that's for. So that's cool. So now I'm going to go to the skills here, and it says you gain 1 proficiency of your choice. We've already picked that. That happened to be survival, so we already got that taken care of. So these are the little things, the details that you want to look at when you're building your character. So the great weapon style is going to be something that we're going to use, and I'll do that once we get the weapon and we can figure out what weapon it's going to be. So we're not going to be using a shield, so we won't need that. But we are going to have some armor and probably a dagger or something like that. I might even do something more exotic, like have a net, something like that, or something that would grapple people. We'll see. So I have a language I need to choose, so it says choice. So I'm just going to pick, I guess, I don't know, maybe he speaks Goblin. Now I don't know why he would know how to do that, but maybe it's from being around the arena or something like that. And then we're going to look at his inventory, which he doesn't have anything right now. So if you have the Rob 2E coding effects packages, there's also another one called the background class and equipment bundle, which is basically they're not actually the equipment, but they're parcels or like treasure chest type things that you can choose from that are related to the basic backgrounds and classes. So if I expand this out, you'll see that there's the different backgrounds. So I'm going to pick the gladiator background, drag and drop it in the equipment, and that just loads all the custom stuff that comes from that particular background. It makes it a little quicker. So if you drag and drop this, you'll get your costume, you get a lock of hair, and a pouch. So these are things that come with that background. And then if you get any gold or money, that's added automatically. So there's the 15 gold. So the next thing is you scroll down, you come to the classes area. So I'm going to grab the fighter. So drag and drop this into the equipment area. Now since this is a gladiator, I'm going to probably end up deleting most of this stuff, but there might be a couple things I want. So for one, I don't need the backpack because I'm not going to be carrying that much stuff. I don't think I'm going to be using chainmail. It's a little heavy, but it is good armor, but I don't know if I'm going to use that. There are some clothing. There's a light crossbow and some dagger, or light crossbow and some bolts. I'm getting rid of that. I don't need that. The crowbar. Nope. Don't need that. Don't need the hammer. So probably didn't even need to pick this. Well, there's a shield. I don't even need that. I will keep the water skin. I don't need the torches. Tinderbox. That's so I can light torches. So I don't even need that. There's a rope here. I don't need to carry around rope. There's some food, so I probably reduce that down to a couple days worth of food instead of 10 days worth of food, because he's living basically in the arena. Here's some pythons, don't need that. So really I didn't need anything out of that. There's the battle axe. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the battle axe because I'm going to do my own custom armor and such. So that's all I kept was the water and the food. So I'm going to level this character up first before I go any further, just so I have an idea of what choices I'm going to make for weapons and such. So I want to take the class and level, and the way you level up in this drag and drop method is the class features here is this little pin on the right, and this kind of gives you an idea of your fighter abilities and such. So I'm going to bookmark that in the hotkeys below. And then just to level up, you just drag and drop this actual link right back into the same window. So you left click and drag and then drop it back in that window. And now at third level, we finally get our archetype. You have all these different choices. So we have the Battle Master, which gives you the combat superiority, all that sort of thing. And then the Champion gives you this kind of this raw physical power. So I think I'm going to pick the Champion. That's one that either one of those would work, but I like the Champion. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. There are others like an Eldritch Knight, Cavalier, Samurai. I'm going to go ahead and just pick the champion. So let's take a look at what the champion does for us. So if we go over to the abilities and you look at champion, you get improved critical, which is something you get at 3rd level. You don't get remarkable athlete till level 7, so that's what we're gaining is this improved critical. So I want to show you how to do that. So this is not automatic, but this is something you can set in Fantasy Grounds. So once you have your weapons and such, you can go into the weapon metadata up here on top and select that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab weapons first, so that way I'll show you how this works. And then I'm also going to add in the great weapon fighting reroll as well. So I want to do it all in one shot. So I'm going to go to items, and I'm going to pick some kind of weapon that I would like him to use. So probably a battle axe or something like that. So let's take a look at the maul. Kind of thinking like this big hammer-like thing. Yeah, so here's the maul. It's pretty good size. It's a large hammer, but instead of a metal head, it has a much larger wooden head with this huge striking area. Or maybe I want the axe. Let's look at the great axe. So I like to split people in half too. So there's a Berserker great axe. There's the great axe here. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, it's two-handed, heavy, slashing weapon. I like it. So I'm just going to drag and drop that into the into this area. It is two-handed, so I want to change that to the two-handed. And now I'm going to take a look at grabbing a dagger, just in case he has to do close combat. So I want to go ahead and drag and drop that in there. I'm going to give him 2 daggers, just because he's, in case he wants to throw them or something like that, he has that. So he has the great axe. He's going to have 2 daggers here. So that's not too crazy. I at least want to give him studded leather. So that would be helpful for his, for his armor, and he's not so heavy. He's already got a heavy weapon, so we don't want him to get too bogged down. So there's his leather armor. We'll drag and drop that to the inventory area. So leather armor, studded. So as you're adding these things, it's adding the some of the things to the actions tab, but it's also updating your character sheet. So this 13 is because of his dexterity, and also because of the armor. So he has a 13 armor class right now. So that's what he has for defenses. So he's still fairly, I would say he's not as heavily armored as he could be, but at least he has 13. And he doesn't have a very high dex, because he's not someone that dances around. He just has a big, huge great axe that he swings. And the recovery on that's probably horrible. So that's pretty much all he needs as far as equipment. I don't see him using too much more. He's got a pouch. He's got a couple days worth of food. He's got this lock of hair, which is like a memory for him. Maybe a past love or a kid or child that he once was attached to. Studded leather, water skin for his water. Yeah, I think he's good. He doesn't need a whole lot of equipment. He's mostly an arena fighter. So I don't see any reason why I'd have to give him anything other than that. Okay, so that is that. So he's got a couple daggers. He can throw them if he needs to. And then he's got his... Oh yeah, I was going to give him a net. That was what I wanted to do. So he has a net that he has it's attached to his hip. And if he needs to, he'll throw that out to likes to entangle people that have lighter weapons. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the items again. I'm going to choose net. And then I'm going to take this and take the net, drag and drop it onto his equipment tab here. And that becomes also like a weapon. He only has one, so that's basically... And then here's the damage it does, is up to 3 points of damage. So that's basically the thrown property. So you throw the net. There's special things on there you gotta pay attention to. But so now we're gonna talk about the improved criticals. So it says beginning when you choose this archetype at level 3, your weapon attacks score a critical hit on a 19 or 20. So in the metadata of the weapon, you can open this up and you'll see this little setting here. So I'm going to type 19 on both of these for ranged and for melee, because it doesn't specify. and that is basically his metadata for the weapon. So if he rolls a 19 or a 20, it'll automatically consider it to be a critical hit. So the next thing I wanted to do was the reroll property. So in this champion feature, or under the fighting feature for this great weapon fighting, says when you reroll, or when you roll a 1 or 2 on damage for attack that you make with a melee weapon, so this only works on the melee side of things. You can basically you can re-roll the damage if you roll a 1 or a 2. It only re-rolls once, so that works. So on the melee part of the dagger, if I go into the properties in Fantasy Grounds, as you can see, it says finesse, thrown. I'm going to put a copy of there, and I'm going to type re-roll 2. And what that does is if he rolls a 1 or a 2, it's going to automatically roll the damage. I'm also going to do that on the Great Axe. This is a melee weapon. So same thing. Put a comma and then re-roll 2. And what that does is it tells Fantasy Grounds if you roll a 1 or 2 on your first damage roll, it will re-roll for you. It'll only do it once like it's supposed to. So that's how you change the properties in the weapon so that you have the correct coding in there for it. And if it's a new 1 or 2, you have to keep it. So it already knows only to roll it once. So we do have a two-handed weapon, or it could be versatile, but in this case it's two-handed, so we have that. So I think that's pretty much most of the automation that he has as far as that goes. Let's take a look at his class features, see if there's anything else. I know there's a group that I want to make here. So if I go to Edit List, and then I click on the little Add Power button on the bottom right. I'm on the Actions tab, by the way. I'm going to put Class Features, and then Fighter, and that will set up a new area or a new group. So now I'm going to go over to the Spells area, which is where the Rob Tui coding effects are stored. And right now I'm in Feats, so I want to change it to the Class Features. I want to actually drag and drop these ready and dodge and these sort of actions. So I'm going to make another group called Standard Actions. So I'm going to add a new power and call this Standard Actions. And what this is going to do is set up another group for those. And what I'm going to do is drag and drop those into this group so that they populate properly. You got to click and drop it right where it says Standard Actions, otherwise it'll go wherever it wants to. So just drag and drop these in here, and that should help. Yeah, see, they're already starting to work out. So here's reaction used. We'll put that on there in case we have that. And then we have a ready action. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So that's that group. And then I'm going to make one for the fighter, which we've already done. So if I'm going to go down and scroll to the fighter stuff and see what we have here. So if you go to the second page or third page, I guess depends on how far you have this thing stretched out. So here we go, getting closer to the fighter. Let's see, what do we got here? So here's the fighter. So we have Action Surge, so that can be added here, because that is one of the features that they get here. So you get the Action Surge and you get Second Wind. So let's take a look at that. So Second Wind is another feature that we get. Yep, right here, Second Wind. So again, I'm going to drag and drop that to the fighter area. So Second Wind, one right there. There we go. There's Action Surge and Second Wind. So there's something that you can do for your character sheet to make it a little bit more complete. So all this does is it adds reminders, or it might add some more easily accessible features. So you can do this stuff manually. You don't have to have that coding that I've just added at the end. These are just kind of above and beyond to help you and make the game a lot smoother. It's kind of like a quality of life thing. So this thing here, the Action Surge, this is just going to give him an extra turn. So it doesn't do anything mechanically, but what happens is when you use it, when you actually use your bonus turn, basically, you click on that, and that will make that go away. So if you come to the actions and combat, it's no longer there because I've already checked it off, and it makes a record of it in the chat window too. For second wind, if you have damage, so let's say he took 12 points of damage or whatever, it's supposed to be 12 wounds. Let's see, he had 35. So he has 12 wounds. So if he wants to use the second wind during combat, all he has to do is click on this, and it will automatically heal him for whatever amount it says. So in this case, it does 1d3 plus 1d10 plus 3. So the feature that he used, the second or the other feature, what was it? The second wind. That will come back after a rest. So if I go to menu and I go to rest and do a long or short rest, it will bring that feature back depending on how it's worded and what. So now the feature is back because I've done a short rest. So it resets on a short or long rest. The second wind comes back after a long rest, I believe. So if you look up the actual information, it says you have a limited well of stamina. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest. So that also comes back after a short rest. So both of these are short rest actions here. That's pretty cool. Yeah, they're both short rest. You can use twice before a rest at level 17. You must do a short or long rest before that. Yep. So there we go. So for the dagger, let's see. I don't know why this is set to range. It's supposed to be melee. And then this is thrown, and this is melee, and this is thrown for the net. So let's take a look at the net. Let's see if there's any coding for that. So if we go to the spells effects area, and I'm just going to go to all, and I'm going to look up net. I want to see if he made anything for that. Now, I don't see anything for the net. The net is interesting because it has some properties that can be a little tricky. So you can roll, and then with it, basically they're restrained until they get freed. So the net has no effect on creatures that are formless. The creature has to use a DC 10 strength check, and if it frees itself on a success, it'll deal 5 points of slashing damage to the net of armor class 2 if they cut themselves out. When you use an action, bonus action, or reaction to attack with a net, you can make only one attack regardless of the number of attacks you can normally make. So it's got a special property. It's thrown 5 to 15 feet. So it's kind of like a way to kind of buy yourself some time is what the way I look at that. So that's pretty cool. So that is basically the build of this fighter in its glory there. Got a nice gladiator. So if you were going to use this character or this creature, you could pull up a map and add it to your campaign. Take a monster and the actual fighter and fight with them. In this case, I'm just going to open up the. I'm going to roll initiative, so I'll go to just to test it out, and go to. First, I'm going to rest everybody just in case, and then I'm going to go to the initiative area, and then I'm going to roll for everyone. So the ogre, in this case, who he's fighting, gets to go first. So the ogre has a great club and a javelin. So the ogre is not going to be in range right away because they're going to start off at opposite ends. So what he's going to do is run up and throw this javelin at the gladiator. So he comes forward. He comes lumbering forward, kind of running as fast as he can. And he has this attack roll here for it's a +6. He's going to throw it at the gladiator. So I just drag and drop that onto the gladiator's entry. Oh, wow. He rolled a 1. So I'm going to say he fell, and he kind of rolls across the arena, and he loses his turn. So he kind of like messed himself up. I'm going to say he takes a point of damage because he fell, and he kind of hurt himself. So that, and then he spends the rest of his turn getting up. So he basically didn't hardly move. He moved up like maybe 5 or 10 feet. And then he fell and rolled. So he probably only moved about 15 feet total. And he dropped he basically lost his balance, and he just kind of went face first and kind of lobbed that javelin up in the air, and it didn't go anywhere. It almost came straight down on him. So that's his turn. So I'm going to pass that forward and go to the gladiator. So now when I'm using Gladiator, I'm going to use the Actions tab. And I'm going to say that he's going to just kind of close the distance. He's not going to come right up and attack because he wants to measure how tough this ogre is. But since the ogre is prone, he's going to go ahead and take advantage of that. So the Game Master would have to take the options or the effects over here on the far right, and you're going to drag and drop prone on top of this ogre because he's on the ground right now and he's trying to get up. So the Gladiator, seeing that this guy is, kind of incapacitated at the moment, he's going to run up and hit him with it, or try to do a nice overhand swing. He's going to try to end him right away. So I'm going to take this great axe and drag and drop it on the ogre. The prone effect will take that into account as well. So I ended up getting advantage on that roll. I ended up getting a 24, and it's considered a critical hit because it rolled a 19. So Fantasy Grounds already knows to do that properly. And if I roll a 1 or a 2 for damage, it's going to re-roll that. So we'll see what happens. So I drag and drop that on this guy here. It did double damage, and it did a whole 24 points of damage. So it took half of the hit points away from the ogre, which is amazing. So he just went, ugh, and he just did a overhand swing and just hit that guy right on top of his neck area, kind of hit him right in the back, took a big chunk out of him. So this guy kind of bellows in pain. So now it's his turn. So he stands up. He's got his great club. He kind of brings it up heavily. He's breathing real hard. He's got this blood spurting out of him. He knows he's in trouble. So he's going to take a swing, kind of a lazy swing at the Gladiator. So I just drag and drop the attack roll onto the Gladiator in the combat tracker. And notice I'm not using any maps or anything. So he's got he rolled an 8 and he missed. And part of that was because he had a disadvantage. So I got to remove the prone because he finally got up. But he also he dropped an 8 anyway, so he didn't make it anyway. So he swings kind of lazily and he overshoots, and the Gladiator just steps aside easily, no problem. So now the Gladiator is going to use his net. But he also knows that the ogre probably will be able to just break free easily, so he's second-guessing himself on that. He's going to take his bonus action, his Fighting Surge, and do 2 attacks on the ogre, because he wants to finish him as quickly as he can. So I'm going to roll again, the Great Axe. This time it's not at advantage. And he rolled 11, so he's able to just barely connect with that guy. So he kind of grazes him with the edge of the Great Axe. Let's see what happens. So if the ogre steps into that means he got more damage on him. That's how I'm describing it anyways. So I'm going to roll the attack roll here, or that was a hit actually. So I don't want to roll that. I want to roll the damage. So we'll see what happens. So that attack roll, the Gladiator did another critical hit. Wow. Wow. So that's heavy damage on the ogre. So that's harsh. So that ogre basically he's wounded. He barely got up, and he's trying to attack the Gladiator. He's not able to. So he missed his turn, and he got up. So that's basically his turn. That's what happens when you fumble. So now it's his turn again, and this time he's going to try to swing again, kind of aimlessly, but he's basically trying to survive. So I want to see what happens. So he drag and drops this attack on the Gladiator. This time, though, what the heck happened there? So that scored a hit, and now here comes the damage. So this is going to hurt. So drag and drop the damage onto the Gladiator. Ouch. So the Gladiator took 17 points of damage, which is really half of his hit points. So as a bonus action on his turn, now it's the Gladiator's turn, he's going to use a second wind. So that heals him for 9 points of damage, which takes away some of the sting of that. And I'm going to go ahead and click that, because that actually gets rid of the usage. So he's used up all his special abilities. But this time, I think what he's going to do is, just use his Great Axe again. He knows he's got this guy kind of pinned away, so we'll see what happens. So we drag and drop this onto the ogre. And he rolled a 10, so the ogre was able to kind of lumber forward, and he kind of ducked underneath that blow, or he stepped aside. So now I'm going to go to the gladiator, or the ogre's turn. He's going to take another swing, like a return swing. See what happens here. So again, he swings but misses, so the gladiator is able to kind of dance aside and move out of the way. So they're kind of exchanging blows here, and the gladiator knows that if he doesn't do something soon, he might be dead. So I think he is going to throw the net out. So I'm gonna roll the attack roll. Let's see if it happens. So that scored a hit. So the ogre's going to take 3 points of damage because he's struggling. He's trying to break free. And on the ogre's stat block, he has a strength check. So what I'll do is, he doesn't have athletics, so I'll just use strength. So he's going to do a check. He just has to roll a 10 or higher. Oh yeah, he broke free, no problem. So that didn't do anything. It didn't. It's kind of what he thought, that it failed, so he's kind of worried. So that was kind of a wasted attack, but at least he tried. I mean, he's trying all his tricks, so he was able to throw the net, and it went on the ogre. But the ogre's so big and strong that he just broke free right away. So that was the ogre's turn, basically, is he had to break free of that net. And now he's picking up his club again and trying to get ready for his next attack. So the gladiator is able to basically kind of bought himself a little time. So the net was basically broken free, so he's like, crap. So he just takes his big great axe, drags and drops it on the ogre, and he missed again. Oh my god! So he's he's gonna be in trouble if he doesn't watch out. So I think he might be done for. So the ogre's really pissed off now. He just snapped out of that net, and he's like, ugh. So he comes lumbering towards the gladiator, does a big, huge overhand swing, and just drives into this gladiator with his great club. And it does, holy crap, 15 points of damage. So the gladiator is really, really hurt. So he's only got like maybe 10 or 12 hit points left, so he's hurting. So, being as brave as he normally is, he's going to take one last swing. He knows he's pretty close to death here. This can really make or break him. So what he's going to do is go ahead and do one more attack, and then he's going to break away. So I'll go ahead and drag and drop the great axe. And he's rewarded with his tenacity there. He ended up with an attack that connected. And now I'm going to take the great axe and drag and drop the damage. Oops, that's the wrong thing there. There we go. So here's the great axe. Drag and drop that, and it is 14 points of damage. So he's almost got this guy on the run here. But the ogre isn't going to give up anytime soon. But he's losing a lot of blood. Both of them are, to be honest. There's all this blood splurting around, and there's blood all over the ground. So they're both trying to fight and basically outlast each other. Is basically what this comes down to. So the ogre's going to take one last desperate swing. So I'm going to drag and drop this on the gladiator's combat tracker entry. And he rolled an 11, which is lucky for the gladiator. The gladiator just kind of lazily moves back and is able to avoid that big club. So now the gladiator is going to, instead of attacking this turn, because he could miss, I think what I'm going to have him do is dodge. So I'm going to do the dodge action and just try to stay out of the way and just kind of move around and get the ogre tired. So I'm going to go ahead and advance it to the ogre's turn. Now the ogre gets another attack, but the dodge effect will give the ogre disadvantage. So he's going to take another swing. And this is a risk that the gladiator took, but he's trying to get the other guy tired so he's able to return with a good damage or a good attack roll. So the great club comes down, and it's going to be at disadvantage, and oh, it still hit. Oh my god. So the fighter the gladiator tried to like fake him out, but it didn't work. The ogre wasn't buying it. See, the ogre takes this mighty swing again, and it's still at disadvantage, I guess, and it looks like he hit. Oh, he already did hit, so that was oh my god, so that's crazy. So this is his next turn, and he basically nails the gladiator. This might be it. Gladiator might be done. So he's going to take his great club and go after the gladiator with it, and he basically rolls. I did 7 points of damage, which really isn't too bad, but the gladiator's hurt, and he's only got 5 hit points left. The ogre has 8 hit points left, so let's see what happens. So the gladiator is going to just kind of barely able to pick his great axe up. He goes and he swings it kind of wildly. We'll see if it does anything. So he's able to swing. He connects with the 13, so he's able to just barely pick that thing up, and he swings it as hard as he can. He's rewarded with success because the ogre's kind of lazy and wasn't able to move out of the way. Oh, maximum damage for that. So 15 points of damage. That ogre goes down in a heap, and he is unconscious. So that is basically the gladiator fight without any maps, without any props, nothing. That's just all theater of the mind. The crowd is roaring. They're going crazy. They're applauding. They're throwing roses and money down into the gladiator pit. He picks up his weapon and kind of slings it over his shoulder. And he does a performance check to see if he can garner some more support. So I'm going to drag and drop this performance into the chat area, or into the dice tower. So he jumps up, and oh yeah, he rolled a 16, so the crowd is just roaring, and they're like so excited, and they're throwing roses and food and all kinds of cool stuff out at him. The ogre is dead. He's bleeding out. He's gone. And the gladiator is victorious. So that was the little gladiator fight. So what I'm going to do is do a long rest. So he's going to go back to the barracks or wherever they're at, and he's going to get patched up, and he's going to rest for a few days. So I'm going to do a long rest. And when you notice, it'll bring some of this stuff back and reset it. So if I go to a long rest, now all this stuff is back. We can say he recovered or he got a new net, so we'll uncheck that. And now all of his actions are back, along with his hit points. So all his hit points are restored. So that was basically just a little demo to show you how to use the characters, even without having a battle map. As the game master, I could have used the party sheet and then use the order tab to kind of illustrate what's going on here. So I could have taken the gladiator and put him in the party sheet, and then I would have used the order tab to kind of show what was going on in the battle. So I would basically take this, drag and drop it onto this here, and then right click, go to layers, and set the grid, and there we go. So I could use that as my makeshift battlefield, and then I could put the ogre on here too, just to kind of show that. So there's a way that you can use Fantasy Grounds without having to break the bank. And then definitely want to put the layers on here. So let me turn the grid off and then turn it back on. Yeah, there we go. And then there's the token. Then if I wanted to put the NPC on there, the ogre that I had, I could go to my campaign NPCs. I'm only using one NPC instead of an encounter, so I don't have an encounter set for it. But I can take this token over here and use that to illustrate the ogre. So that was basically what that would look like. And then you can just use this as your arena to kind of show what the fighting's like. But hopefully that helps a little bit with some of your wonders about the characters, and I give you a little bit of a demonstration on how they work. So that should be it. Hopefully that helps you guys a little bit. Hope to see you around the community. Like I said, if you need help, just come on into the Fantasy Grounds Academy Discord. We usually have people around to answer questions. We also hold events such as character creation, like we did today. We also do DM stuff. We do symposiums. Next month in April, we are doing a Symborum Alien Vaesen role-playing rule sets for the publisher, for Free League Publishing. We're going to do an Alien Day on 4/26. So we've got a lot of different things that we're going to show during the symposium. So we're going to talk about aliens and that sort of thing. But come on into the Discord, and if you haven't come in already, and we'll help you with any questions that you have. Just remember that Fantasy Grounds is an ever-evolving platform, so there's just changes being made all the time. So this is 3/30/2022, and as I take a look at the calendar here, this rule set can change. Yeah, thanks so much, Queso Blanco. That's cool. Appreciate it. Yeah, so just kind of showing you how to build the character and also how to use it. If you missed the video, you can always go to YouTube or in the archives. I'm going to go ahead and put this up. All the content that I used is in the links for the video. So if you're wondering what I was using during this video, other than the 5e rule set, I was using a lot of extensions. Well, not extensions, but modules. So if I go into the modules here, I was using the Rob Tui's class equipment bundles, the class features, the feats, race. I didn't have any spells really to worry about, so I didn't use that. I did use the player's handbook, and I used the comprehensive equipment manual to build the character and such. So those are the content that I use. I had more loaded, but technically I didn't really even need all that. But these are just optional. You don't have to have all this automation here. This kind of shows you some of the power of the platform. So that's basically how this is done. So take care, everyone. You have a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week. Friday's coming up, so hopefully this will help you guys out. Like I said, if you missed it, go to the video channel for our YouTube, which is Fantasy